Netanyahu must be removed, the top former Israeli national security officials say. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has the weekly cabinet meeting at the Defense Ministry in Tel Aviv on January 7, 2024. CNN, more than 40 senior former Israeli national security officials, celebrated scientists, and prominent business leaders have sent a letter to Israel's president and Speaker of Parliament demanding that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu be removed from office for posing what they say is an existential threat to the country. The signatories on the letter include four former directors of Israel's foreign and domestic security services, two former heads of the Israel Defense Forces, and three Nobel Prize winners. The letter blasts the coalition Netanyahu assembled to form the most right-wing government ever in Israel, along with his highly controversial effort to overhaul Israel's judiciary that they said lead to security lapses that resulted in the October 7 attacks, the deadliest day in Israel's history. We believe that Netanyahu bears the primary responsibility for creating the circumstances leading to the brutal massacre of over 1,200 Israelis and others, the injuries of over 4,500, and the kidnapping of more than 230 individuals, of whom over 130 are still held in Hamas captivity. It reads, "The victims' blood is on Netanyahu's hands." The letter was sent to Israeli President Isaac Herzog on Thursday and to Knesset Speaker Amir Ohana on Friday. Netanyahu's popularity has fallen dramatically since starting his sixth term as prime minister just over a year ago. Critics have blasted his judicial reform effort with threatened to trigger a controversial constitutional crisis and divided the country with months of massive regular demonstrations. Leaders of Iran, Hezbollah, and Hamas, the letter says, openly praises that what they correctly saw as the destabilizing and erosive process of Israel's stability led by Netanyahu and seizes the opportunity to harm and damage Israel's security. Among the 43 signatories are former IDF chief Moshe Yalon and Dan Haluch, Tamir Pardo, and Danny Yatom, who ran a Mossad intelligence agency, and Nadab Aragaman and Jacob Perry, who were directors of the Domestic Security Services, Sinbet. Former CEOs ambassadors, government officials, and three Nobel laureates for chemistry, Aaron Chichan-Nobel, Abraham Herchko, and Dan Sechtman, also signed the letter. The poll released this week by Israel's Channel 13 suggests that Netanyahu's political party, Likud, would now come in a distant second if elections were held today. The frontrunner in the poll was the National Unity Party led by former IDF Chief of Staff Benny Gantz, currently a member of Netanyahu's war cabinet. The next elections aren't planned until late 2026, though there have been protests and calls for early elections, including from one of Israel's main opposition leaders, Yair Lapid. The situations that brought Israel to elections beforehand are almost nothing in comparison to what Israel is going through now, said Haim Tomer, the longtime Mossad officer who retired after heading the agency's intelligence division and who signed the letter demanding Netanyahu's removal. Everybody understands that Netanyahu is incompetent to lead Israel, Tomer told CNN. Backlash grows over Israel's Netanyahu seemingly ruling out the two-state solution. In the past week, Netanyahu has repeatedly expressed his opposition to Palestinian sovereignty for security reasons as Israel's main ally, the United States, continues to call for a two-state solution. The letter's signatories accused Netanyahu of spending years propping up Hamas in Gaza at the expense of the Palestinian Authority, which the U.S. has argued should be revitalized to govern both the West Bank and Gaza. CNN has reported that for years Qatar delivers the cash-filled suitcases to Gaza with Netanyahu's blessing despite concerns from his own government. The money was intended to pay civil servant salaries and retirees' benefits. It is now delivered via bank transfers rather than in cash, and as recently as last month, Qatar said it was continuing to pay it. To form his current government, Netanyahu brought together other parties well to the right of Likud and assembled the most right-wing government in Israeli history. Two of its most prominent members, Bazel Smotrich and Itamar Ben-Gvir, have been called out by the Biden administration for arguing that Palestinians should leave Gaza. The latter accused Netanyahu of refusing to take responsibility for the October 7 attacks, instead blaming others and inciting against those who have fought to save the Israeli democracy from his destructive actions and plans, and now mobilize wholeheartedly to support Israel's national war effort. It concludes with a plea to the Israeli president and the Knesset speaker to replace the prime minister, as well as a warning: the Israeli nation and Jewish history will not forgive you if you don't fulfill your almost national responsibility. Neither the president nor the speaker has the power to remove prime minister from office unilaterally, but the letter was also to be distributed by the speaker to Knesset members who can remove and replace the prime minister. The right people need to get their hands on the steering wheel, told Tomer, the former Mossad officer. I think people start to look from the outside towards the Israel and ask themselves what happens to this country. Tomer said, what happens to this country with very, very smart people that are now being led with some idiot. The word that we have been using in the circles that I've been participating in this is we need a restart. We need a restart. Israel has come under intense international criticism for its war in Gaza, which has killed more than 25,000 Palestinians and displaced almost 2 million people since the October 7th Hamas attacks. Israel has repeatedly insisted that each war is not against the Palestinian people, but Hamas militants who are holding more than 130 hostages in the dire conditions in the war zone. Netanyahu told a news conference last week that the politicians who were asking him to step down are essentially asking for a Palestinian state. Israel's action in Gaza or the subject of the genocide case in the International Court of Justice, initiated by South Africa, that accused the country's leadership of intending to bring about the destruction of each Palestinian population. Israel denies the allegations, arguing that the war is being fought in self-defense and that its leadership has not displayed the genocidal intent.